You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Yeah. Hey, how about we talk about the Bible today?
Let me think. Let's try something different.
Okay.
I'm trying to make a joke. Dang it.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Yeah, no. I mean, but how could you make a joke?
We know you're usually trying to make jokes.
Well, how could you make a joke about saying, let's not talk about the Bible?
Yeah, on a podcast called, The Bible Guys. There is that.
So so I agree. Let's talk about the Bible.
Okay,
Jeff.
great. But before we do that,
yes,
let's do a segment called Who's Most Likely?
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
And by the way,
I haven't read these yet. Have you read them?
No, I've not even glanced at them.
Okay.
However, I do have a feeling that I think this is true. Most of the time, we're in agreement on this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yep.
Who's most likely to win their March Madness bracket?
That would definitely be you.
That's me.
Yeah, and let's tell everybody why.
Because I'm a winner.
No, because
I have won the office bracket a couple times, and then my wife won it one time.
Because I loathe basketball.
College basketball. That's right.
No.
You loathe basketball in general.
Basketball in general.
You hate basketball.
I do not like basketball.
Yeah, barely a Christian.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So March Madness bracket.
By the way, did I tell you that as a youth pastor, I had somebody train me because I thought I cannot be successful as a youth pastor without being good at basketball.
Oh, uh-huh.
So I grabbed somebody and said, please mentor me. I must like basketball.
Wow.
And I forced myself.
Wow.
And then at the end of months and months of me trying to become a basketball player, I decided that I would surround myself with basketball players so that my youth group could have basketball be a part of its culture.
Yeah.
And I decided to abandon that whole track.
But you're not so then did you just run around like in the ref jersey or something?
No, I just walked around shaking hands.
I would say basketball is one of those things you have to start when you're young. And
I did?
I mean, very young.
Oh.
And probably a couple months isn't going to get you at the level where you're going to be able to capture the attention of teenagers.
Well, I just wanted to like it.
Yeah. Oh, you just wanted to like it.
I just wanted to be able to hang, right?
Yeah.
Not play well, just be able to hang.
Well, March Madness, you're going down this year.
So I was given floor seats to the Atlanta Hawks game, and my feet are on the floor, and I'm literally right behind the players. And about midway, I was like, I'm bored. Let's go home.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you go. So I am most likely to win the March Madness bracket.
Correct.
Number 2, who's most likely to be voted class clown?
That would definitely be me because I was.
Yeah, so was I.
Were you really?
Yeah, 8th grade.
Wow.
Yeah. What grade for you?
Geez, I'd like to think it was. It's a great question.
Yeah.
Probably 7th grade.
Wow. So we're going to split those points.
Okay. That's hilarious.
That's amazing. Yeah.
That's really funny.
Who's most likely to go off on a tangent during a meeting? Jeff?
Yeah, that's definitely you.
I'm a tangent guy.
You're definitely a tangent guy.
I have all my thoughts all at once, all the time.
I have all my thoughts all at once.
All the time.
That is really funny. Yeah.
Everything reminds me of
good.
Everything reminds me of another thing.
That's
everything.
So funny.
It's true. Who's most likely to be the favorite child?
Ooh.
That's me.
Is it you?
Yeah, I literally call my parents and go, "Hey, Mom, it's your favorite son."
Do you?
I do it. My dad's birthday was a couple days ago. I called him, "Hey, it's your favorite son," and so they bought me a shirt that said "favorite son."
Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh, yeah. Not my parents, so my mom did, but she bought it for all of us.
World's best boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it at a garage sale.
Yeah. So even my brothers complained that I'm the favorite child. So I'm the oldest. They got it right the first time.
Right.
You just can't.
Everything's downhill from there.
It is. Which son are you?
I'm the 5th. I'm the youngest.
Oh, so you're the last.
Yeah, so
everything goes downhill.
But actually, I always sign. Well, I used to a long time ago. Sign my cards. Number 5, your favorite.
Your favorite. Oh yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
So are you really your mom's favorite?
I'll concede to you.
The baby is usually the favorite.
I'm not certain. My mom is incapable, I think.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Of having favorites.
Yeah. No, she's not.
That's funny.
If you have to say that, then no, you're not the favorite.
That's hilarious.
Oh, I love everybody the same, right? Means you're not the favorite. Because parents go, you're my favorite.
Yeah, I disagree.
Oh, yeah.
Disagree.
It's true. Dude, I've had that
You
happen.
don't know me
my brothers,
mom.
If my brothers are listening, my mom tells me that every time she talks to me. No, I'm joking. That's not true. Okay, I'm lying.
Number 5.
Number 5. Who's most likely to get stuck up a mountain and have to call for rescue?
That would be me.
You.
No. Well, Okay, that's definitely, I have mixed emotions on this, but the answer is definitely me.
Is it you?
Yeah, but here's the reason why. Because number one, you would most likely never have to call for a rescue for anything. That's really the main operative part, okay?
You just gave me that one. Like, just get that out of the way.
Okay. However,
no, that's probably not
the
true,
other half of this is, I would never be on a mountain for any reason whatsoever.
Yeah. So if you're there, you need rescued.
Right. But unless it's on a missions trip.
Yeah.
Right? If it's on a missions trip, then I guess I could see myself being on a mountain.
That's funny.
But other than that, I'm not voluntarily heading toward a mountain anytime soon.
Yeah.
I remember I told you, like, when I see those like shows about people, oh no, they died on Everest.
All right.
I have like no compassion. I'm like, what do you think was going to happen?
Yeah, of course you did.
Yeah, I was like, and then the weather came in, and how tragic it was. I'm like, yeah, that's what happens when you sign up to go to Everest.
Yeah, the way you don't die on Everest is, don't climb Everest.
Don't climb Everest, because chances are you're going to die.
Yeah.
So there's no compassion there for me.
Last year, my wife and I and my daughter, we went to Grand Tetons, and then at Jenny Lake. If you've ever been there, it's beautifully, just beautiful. And the Grand Teton Mountains are just so stark right there. And so you ride a little boat across the lake, and then we could hike up the hill. You go into this valley, and there's elk and all kinds of stuff. You're trying to see waterfalls, and I'm telling you, so I'm not the super fittest guy, but when we do those kinds of things, I don't care. I'll pay the price tomorrow, but let's do these things. And I love doing those things. And so honestly, you're sitting there and you're looking at these 14,000 foot mountains. I'm like, I wonder what it would take. I wonder how much it would cost to get a guide to go. You don't do that? Like when you see big mountains, you don't? No. Oh man, I look at everything like that. I wonder.
If anything, I dream of like, I wonder what it'd be like to fly in a chopper over this mountain.
Yeah, people were doing that.
No, I mean, I'd do that. Yeah.
No, I just look at it. I wonder, and then I start thinking, I wonder how expensive it'd be to buy all the equipment and just do like a 5-day hike through the Tetons.
Yeah, you and I are very different people.
Yeah, all the time. I always want to just go around the next hill. I want to go up that mountain. I want to see what's just beyond all the time. I don't know why. It's just in me.
Yeah, well, good for
Love
you.
It. Yeah,
good for you.
Love that. But in my current physical state, that's why we're doing the 77-day challenge, right?
That's right.
In my current physical state, I'm likely to have to call for rescue if I actually try to do those things.
Oftentimes when I'm not a certain way, I often, more times than not, I'll say, I really wish I was this way.
Oh,
like I wish I was the way that you are. That kind of thing. In this particular case,
most people do.
No,
in almost every area.
Stop.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, I am so glad the way I am that I am, because I have
don't want that.
No desire to be that way.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Matthew 26.
Here we go. So we are in Matthew chapter 26, and again, short little verses.
Yep.
But we're doing each of these events in the life of Jesus. And so yesterday, Judas committed to betray Jesus. And so now here, the disciples are preparing for the Passover. So Matthew 26:17 says, on the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, where do you want us to prepare the Passover meal for you? As you go into the city, he told them, you'll see a certain man. Tell him, the teacher says, my time has come and I will eat the Passover meal with my disciples at your house. So the disciples did as Jesus told them and prepared the Passover meal there. In Mark 14:12, it says, on the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb is sacrificed, Jesus' disciples asked him, where do you want us to go to prepare the Passover meal for you? So Jesus sent 2 of them into Jerusalem with these instructions. As you go into the city, a man carrying a pitcher of water will meet you. Follow him. At the house he enters, say to the owner, the teacher asks, where is the guest room where I can eat the Passover meal with my disciples? And he'll take you upstairs to a large room that is already set up. That is where you should prepare our meal. So the 2 disciples went into the city and found everything just as Jesus had said, and they prepared the Passover meal there. And then in Luke chapter 2, verse 7, it says, now the festival of unleavened bread arrived. When the Passover lamb is sacrificed. Jesus sent Peter and John ahead and said, go and prepare the Passover meal so we can eat it together. Where do you want us to prepare it? They asked him. He replied, as soon as you enter Jerusalem, a man carrying a pitcher of water will meet you. Follow him. At the house he enters, say to the owner, the teacher asks, where's the guest room where I can eat the Passover meal with my disciples? He will take you upstairs to a large room that is already set up. That is where you should prepare your meal. They went off to the city and found everything just as Jesus had said, and they prepared the Passover meal there. So they're getting ready for Passover.
Well, this is one of those things where it was just like when Jesus found the donkey. Remember that? He says, "Go into the city, and you're going to find somebody there with a donkey and a colt, and you're going to say the teacher needs a donkey, and he's going to give you the donkey." And we talked about that, and I said, "Gee, I wonder if that guy was like overtaken with Jesus powers. You know, he just went into a trance. Yes, here are the reins of my donkey." But then you suggested something which was hilarious because hilarious only in that I've never thought about it. It was so practical. Uh-huh. You said, well, maybe it was just a person that he knew or he had healed before, or maybe it was just somebody who knew him, you know. And when they had heard the master is, you know, needing a donkey, they're like, well, absolutely anything for Jesus, right? Yeah. And so it could be something as simple as that, right?
Sure.
So, but my brain doesn't go there at all.
Sure.
My brain goes toward...
It's a miracle.
You know, like ominous music starts.
Right.
And Jesus is like, you will run into a man with a pitcher, you know, and then he will magically say, I have a room prepared already upstairs for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where my brain goes.
It does seem like if they knew the guy, they would say, hey, you're going to run into Simon.
Yeah.
Right? It seems like that's what he said. He didn't. He said a man with a pitcher.
Right.
Right. So there is a little bit of mystery to this one.
Yeah.
But the guy clearly knew who Jesus was because the teacher asks. What teacher? You know, all of Jerusalem was full of rabbis today.
Right.
Because it's Passover week. Right. So...
But if he was overtaken with Jesus' powers to that point, he would know exactly where the teacher was.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Or, you know, the whole city had just turned out a couple days ago to say Hosanna.
Right.
Right. So I think the guy with the pitcher knew who Jesus was.
Yeah, because again,
the disciples didn't know who this guy was.
It's not up to these authors to unveil the dynamics of that conversation. Mm-hmm. What teacher? Who do you think?
Right.
The teacher. Right. Like I'm sure that probably even happened. Right.
Right.
But that's not up to the author to lay that out for us. Yeah. Right. So yeah. So I would think that conversation probably took place.
Yeah. One of the benefits of doing these parallel things, even when you're reading some simple passages like this, is you see how they're all telling the same story and they tell it in a different way, but it all meshes. For instance, Matthew chapter 26 says, on the first day of the festival, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, where do you want us to go to prepare the Passover meal for you? Mm-hmm. And then he says, as you go into the city. So it's the disciples. Which disciples? How many disciples? I think it's all the disciples, right? Mm. Then if you read Luke chapter 22, it says, the festival of unleavened bread arrived when the Passover lamb was, Jesus sent Peter and John ahead. So it turns out Peter and John are the two who get sent.
Right.
All the disciples come and ask. He sends Peter and John. The way you know that is on Mark 14, it says, on the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb was sacrificed, Jesus' disciples asked him. So the disciples asked him, where do you want us to go? Jesus sent two of them. Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So Matthew says, the disciples just ask. Luke says, he sends Peter and John. Mark says, the disciples asked and he sends two.
Right.
Isn't that neat? And so it's a simple thing. It means nothing. That whole the fact. But what I'm saying is when the stories differ, they still always mesh.
Yeah.
Right? There's a way to mesh them together. And that's the thing.
I'll even push back on one thing that you said. When it says the disciples, it doesn't necessarily mean all 12.
All of them. Right.
It could be 5.
Yeah. It was likely more than the 2.
Right. It could be in 5.
Right.
So again, unless there's another piece of insight that tells us which 5 disciples came or which 6 or 12 or whatever. Yeah.
But more than the 2 he sent.
Yes.
Because
more than the 2 he sent.
If he wanted to talk about the 2, he said 2 disciples. But instead it said the disciples, and then he sent 2.
Right.
So it differentiates between the disciples and 2.
Right.
And then we know that those 2 are Peter and John.
Yeah, which by the way is cool. It's cool to know, right?
Yeah. Well, so it's just useful in knowing, sometimes if you watch History Channel, mm-hmm. they will want to try to disassemble the authority of the Gospels by showing what appears to be controversial differences.
Yeah,
conflicts.
Yeah.
And they're not. They're differences, but they're not conflicting ever. Right. Like there's none. There's a reasonable response for every single difference between the Gospels. And so in my mind, again, and we've already asserted this several times, in my mind, the differences give me more confidence that we're talking about real witnesses as opposed to collusion to make sure we all get our story straight before we write it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
And notice also that he chose Peter and John.
Again.
So again, right? So Peter and John are the ones who are chosen by Jesus to witness really cool things that the other disciples may not have been chosen for, at least evidenced in the Scripture. And I believe, and I've always said it, it's because of their inquisitive heart. They're the ones that pursue Jesus and pull him aside. And they're the ones that say, tell us more, we want to know more, and let's ask you a question more than the others. And so, Peter and John get to experience this cool little thing where, imagine them, okay, walking into a town. And at this point, is there still a piece of them that wonders, I wonder if this is going to happen. There's got to be some anticipation, right? He said, we're going to see this mysterious man with a pitcher. Oh, that's why I wonder it's going to happen, right? Or are they just so unbelievably confident, which I imagine they would be.
Yeah, by this time, they're accustomed to this.
They're accustomed to this, right? So then they're just going to walk in. They're going to be, well, he's got to be here. Jesus said he would be, right? Mm-hmm. And so, which is pretty cool.
And then when you were in Jerusalem, did you go to one of the traditional upper rooms?
We did not.
You didn't? So it's kind of funny. Like you have mentioned before, in Israel, when you go on tours, the tour guides will rank things 1, 2, 3. 1, Jesus was definitely here. 2, Jesus was probably in this area. 3 is it's traditional and nobody knows, right?
Right.
And so it used to be that the upper room was like a 2, maybe a 1, except the government made some changes and turned a space into a national park, kind of a space. And so then the Catholic Church just moved where the upper room was.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. So it's interesting when you're in the old city, because you're in this, they probably came through one of the lower gates in the lower part of the city. So if you can envision, Jerusalem sits on a hill, and then it's hills all around, and the valleys are really steep. They're valleys made from runoff and little brooks that just cut through this softer dirt and rock, right? And so the valleys are steep. And so while it might take a long time to walk, it's only just a few miles away. Like Bethany is only just a few miles from Jerusalem. So in this, then Jerusalem has the lower part of the city on the lower part of the hill, and then it comes up to the high part of the city. They call it the upper part of the city. There's multiple walls. And so they would have come through and into the upper part of the city, which also happened to be, there were a lot of rich stuff there, a lot of rich people there. This is where Herod's lower palace was. It's where the Hasmonean palace was. It's where Herod's royal palace was. Caiaphas's house, we believe, was right there.
Right.
All these things. And so Jesus goes up into kind of the swanky neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And that's where he decides, I'm having my last meal in class.
Yeah,
right?
there it is.
There's a first class place. And so it mentions here.
Well, anybody who has a guest room that's on the
large upper room.
A large upper room.
Yeah.
And it's big enough for a traditional table to feed 12 people.
Well, 13.
Oh, yeah, 13.
Plus, the disciples, it could have included all the women too.
It could have. That's right.
Right.
So it could have been 15, 18
15,
people.
20 people. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that's a pretty big house, especially by the standards
of those days.
Yeah. Because today you're like, well, that's a moderate house.
Right.
But back in those days, that's a rich man's house.
So we're not talking about a mud hut here.
No.
And so sometimes, people want to talk about the poverty of Jesus. The fact that Jesus didn't own a home is where we always get the idea that Jesus was poor.
Because he said the Son of Man has no place to lay his head.
Right. But we have mentioned this in the past. Jesus' friends tended to have some significant resources. Mm-hmm. And in this case, this person has a large home and is happy to let Jesus use this for the Passover meal. Now, think about that for a minute. This is the day before the Passover.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Jerusalem goes from somewhere around 50,000 people to 250,000 people. Mm-hmm. And a giant upper room in this mansion is still available.
Right.
This guy didn't have his own plan. People who build big houses usually plan to fill them on holidays.
Right.
Isn't that why? The people who have nice big homes that are listening on our podcast, you got that house because you were envisioning how great it'd be to have all the kids over and the grandkids over for Christmas.
Right.
And how great this dining room is going to be for Thanksgiving. That's why we buy bigger houses. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, most of us would just buy something much more manageable. So this guy has a big house, big room, probably with the intent of filling it on big days. And it's not. Or he chooses to change his plans for Jesus. Something happened where in this very wealthy area, this guy makes accommodation for Jesus and his big group of people. And that is really quite astounding that this happened. It may have been the sacrificial decision of this guy to let Jesus use it instead of him packing his family into it. Or
Jesus tranced him with his Jesus powers.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I doubt it. But anyways,
I doubt it too.
The two places where they have identified saying, hey, this may be an upper room, their upper room, for this meal, both of them are in very ancient areas of the city. And the downstairs is very big, and the extended buildings and the little courtyard, all that stuff is very large. So this person probably was pretty wealthy.
So this would be we're at Thursday now. Is that right in the week?
Yes, I believe so.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yep.
So again, it's unclear. It doesn't say this took place on
likely,
Thursday.
Yeah,
right?
it's likely.
Yeah.
Because preparing the meal, you're going to sacrifice the lamb. You're going to cook for a long time. In order to get good lamb, it takes a while.
Right. Yeah, and then we know we know that he has the Passover meal in the upper room. And then he still has to go through the garden. Actually, he goes through the vineyard first. Then he goes through the garden. Then he gets arrested. Then he gets tried, and then he gets crucified. And so that would bring us to Friday.
He goes to the olive grove, the Mount of Olives. Is that what you're talking about?
No. Actually, I think I'm pretty sure I learned this, and I think this is true. No, it's John 15. Remember, I'm the vine, you are the branch. Where he leaves the upper room, and before he goes to the Garden of Gethsemane, I think he stops and teaches.
Okay.
John 15.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. We'll see that.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that is our time. So we will see you next time on the Bible Guys.